Welcome to Inspiramais 2022 _2, a benchmark program for the fashion industry, unifying the language and the methodology for the entire production chain in one single space. This is the proposal for the evolution of Inspiramais, the only design, innovation, and sustainability program for materials in fashion globally. Remembering that on the page of the program, you have access to exclusive speakers and exhibitors of Inspiramais. Visit them and do business. Inspiramais has the sponsorship of Cipatex, Altero, BASF, Pertex, Granil, Brisa, Caimili Leison, Camaleoa, Calegraph, Indutex Brasil, FCC, Grupo Cofrag, Grupo Stickfran, JR Soluções, Leather Labs, ATB Soares, and York. Organized by Brazil, Tex Brazil, Brazilian Leather, and Brazilian Furniture, in partnership with Sebrae, and promoted by Asintecal, Abit, CCB, Abimóvel, and Apex Brazil. Let us watch the video of our partner Sebrae and the master partnership of Inspiramais Cipatex. Then we invite the coordinator of the Research and Design Nucleus for Inspiramais, Walter Rodrigues, to present Free Spirit, the last step of the product pyramid, the 60% of the methodology. Day or night? Sciences or humanities? City or country? Making choices means conquering one of the greatest desires of humanity, independence. And Sebrae believes that being an entrepreneur is a pathway to independence, which is open to people of all ages, genders, and those that seek more options for their life. For Sebrae, just as important as encouraging businesses to do well is supporting people in their dreams and life projects who want to generate jobs, develop their community, and transmit an entrepreneurial culture in Brazil. A place where everyone is free to choose, even choosing to be an entrepreneur. Sebrae, the strength of the Brazilian entrepreneur. Time. Everything changes. Everything transforms. It even changes the way we see time. The more it goes by, the more valuable we perceive it, the more we respect it, and the more we understand it. It's in its hands that we receive the most valuable gift life can give us, experience. And it is what reveals the greatest secret of all, that time, in fact, isn't the division between past, present, and future, but the sum of these three elements, where the result is eternity of art, of feelings, and the soul. It's this timelessness that inspires our fashion, to translate this beauty that lives forever. Come discover this at Inspiramais 2022. Hello. We're arriving here at the third day of Inspiramais, and we're ending the methodology with the 60%, remembering that you can download the methodology and all the topics of the other days using the QR code on your screen. You can access it and download all this research. Remembering that tomorrow we have a new time, a new topic, future-proof, and we'll enter with a preview for 2023 _1. So I'll wait for you tomorrow, the same time, with a preview of the future regarding what we're planning for January for the next Inspiramais. So let's continue here with the 60%, and we're going to talk about Free Spirit for the last time. The last edition, it was the 30%, and we're seeing this very actively in the collections which are in the market. Let's remind you once again the methodology of the product pyramid, 10, 30, and 60. It's important to remember that 10% is the innovation that will add value to your brand. 30% is processing this innovation and creating an idea of assertiveness so that when we reach massification of the innovation at the 60%, there we'll need to have master agility to reach price and competitiveness. The combination creates 100% of success. So it's a very clear combination in this methodology and how it's applied to products, where you'll see the difference that will happen in your collections and in the way you communicate this to your clients. So now continuing, we're going to talk about the main topic of free spirit, which are secure values. We understand very well that this was thought of a little bit before the pandemic. And during the pandemic, this inspiration became concrete in a very clear manner for all of us. We believe that when considering all the challenges, this would be a way for us to create a language for the classic or the timeless. Romanticism and escapism and the fantasy which is necessary during a moment of challenge is very explicit in the New Romantics. So, our experience in these challenges imposed upon us over the last 8 months, for example, it becomes very important for us to understand how consumer behavior has acted. And we had very clear perception that, okay, we have a lot of things in our closets. What's really necessary? What's really important for our day-to-day and for our habits? It's also important to have timeless models that are classic, but that have modern touches, new touches, emphasizing quality material. So this aspect is very important within the idea of safe values. The other aspect is escapism. So we have flowers, botanicals, an explosion of colors, and especially an inspiration from the 70s that comes from a hallucinogenic style with hallucinogenic colors. And this was very vibrant for us, especially in the cinema and music and various Netflix series that captured this period that's so fantastic in the 1970s. We're going to see how this will impact our material choices with timeless models, with more added value, with classic patterns, and denim that's a bit more cut or tailored, jewels or jewelry taking on a protagonism, sometimes in adornments, but very clearly in costume jewelry. The idea of pearls, the use of pearls, the idea of perception of value, silver, the idea of the monogram or the brand, rebranding this idea and positioning this new idea, and the idea of comfort, transmitted through loungewear, home office, and comfort with foam. We start talking about perceived value. We see the color chart, these timeless beiges, all the browns, which match completely from the furniture, patch clothing, lots of gold, lots of golden finishing, which reflects this timeless idea and this new classic. It's also important for us to understand that patterns receive an interesting trend of perceived value and timelessness. You can see these textures as macro velvets or interlaced in stripes, creating this interesting timeless effect. You can see the perceived value here of leather translated into the synthetic laminate as well, where we see a large amount of products that are worked on using this texture with this perception of material. It's really interesting, as the idea of luxury also is part of our daily life. This appears very clearly in the furniture, which are very powerful in their construction, and with the use of these premium materials or the appearance of premium materials. We have the exotic hides being worked on with a very powerful effect in terms of finishing and shine. And we understand that the volume of these exotic parts in coats, boots, and larger accessories. And it's an interesting idea for the use of printing on laminate and engravings. Another important aspect of modern classicism are patterns based on plaids, even the cute plaids, which are very traditional, Chanel, which is this tweed, which is super powerful. It's a benchmark of the Chanel brand. And also all the pedipule, pedicoque, and the Prince of Wales check, which are these male traditional patterns which continue playing a role in the 60%. We also see a new way of looking at plaids and the way we put them together, varying the color palette and combinations, giving it a very young look that's very fun and laid back. The same thing happens with denim, which comes more raw, darker, more closed, but in very timeless styles, very tailored, very well thought of tailoring with lots of accessories and furniture. Another important point is the idea of jewelry. Since we were talking about future-proof, here we're talking about in future-proof the idea of the permanent relevance. One of the important things that we bring is jewelry. It's been discussed since the free spirit. The importance of this material, this wealth, the shine, the crystals, and especially the idea of the pearl. It appears very clearly as an adornment. It can be applied on the models, but also in the costume jewelry, large rings with large stones, exaggerated earrings, tiaras, and anywhere we can place the effects of the stones. Silver appears in an important element, whether it's fabrics or synthetic laminate or leather. Working with and playing with the idea of shine and luxury for this material in modeling that remembers the 60s with shorter lengths and very elegant, also used in accessories that are heavier. So it's interesting to compare the weight of the boot with the shine, the lightness of the silver. It's very important, the idea of luxury and shine, and especially the wealth of the pearls emphasized in the details, in the embroideries, in the applications, which we will see in various collections which are in the market. Another important point is the idea of the monogram. Several brands treated this theme with a way to retake value into their products, and even those who use them, such as Balmain, re-edited their brand and their monogram from the 70s and brought it into the collection. This is very common in Louis Vuitton, it's very common in Godard, Oya, and Nueve, and other brands assimilated the importance of the monogram and brought it into their prints. We can notice this idea also in casual, used on denim, using laser effects, creating a new look, which is very interesting for this material. Another important point is the idea of comfort. We can see this pet hare that's super happy with their little jersey overalls, and the idea of foam and comfort that we can bring into this topic. We also need to think about fur and the idea of affection and the comfort that is brought with fur. The idea of home office, especially in furniture, it's very clear in furniture that has ergonomics, the importance of a good chair to work all day in with your notebook. And this is reflected in the clothing which you'll wear and the importance that we give to the upper portion of the body, especially with sweaters with more nice collars or the use of earrings or glasses, which increased it's in their demand since we're focusing on people's faces, and other decorative elements for this part of the body. It's really cool for you to pay attention to this and invest in your brand through these new projects. Here we bring the idea of suede, especially in padding, with this strong reference of comfort and loungewear. And then foam appears as a key element in the creation of accessories, which need a certain different texture in furniture and also in accessories. This foam is very massified. We can find this in various products, and you can still bet on this in your collections. When we talk about new romantics, we're going to seek within this idea of value perception and safe value perception what we believe in terms of romance that we need at times like this that we're experiencing. So the idea of this floral liberty, botanicals, and artsy is to help us complement this collection and create this image of the 60%. The new romantics will allow us to see models that are very appropriate and similar to the 19th century and the Victorian era. We see the earrings and embroidery details, and the shirts, and the black being colored with white, and this interesting combination of weight and lightness at the same time. We also have a lot of red. It's a very dramatic color and very important, and the idea of new romantics, and the idea of elements of the heart and heart shapes, emphasizing this romanticism. Also, there's the idea of volume, both in accessories and especially in the sleeves of the shirts and the coats. The idea of floral goes very well with the idea of new romantics, especially the idea of liberty with very small flowers, which can be matched with prints that sometimes have other prints like stripes or plaids, creating very interesting color charts. Because at the 60% we have our largest color chart. And when it comes to colors, this is going to explode in botanicals with elements of flowers, giant flowers, which sometimes take over the entire print. And we perceive that this happens in accessories, especially in clothing, and often in costume jewelry. We also see this inclusion of florals and vegetable stamps, especially the botanicals, in furniture, and we see this in all accessories, from daily use and those made for vacations or some time on the beach. These elements are very matchable, putting botanicals into your day-to-day. Another important element is to understand the artsy, and in a certain way, this idea of geometry remains within the 60%. We have many circles, squares, sometimes hollow, and this happens in the combination of geometric elements in costume jewelry and also in prints. Especially in the 60%, we say that this is the territory of prints, because here is where the consolidated materials are, where you'll give them a new look and new interpretation for the basis, which are your classical basis. So see the amount of inspiration that you have to create new prints for these materials. And we also bring in the 60% trends which we believe are remaining. They are trends that remain from one season to the next. And then we have an animal print, which is a classic, and that remains here with a mix of prints and colors, the mix of leopard and tiger, creating very interesting effects for prints. Zebra appears in a separate context. It's extremely important at this point in time, and it comes in jacquard for furniture and even in classic black and white print on textiles or on hides or fur, emphasizing this zebra animal idea. Another important idea in prints is paisley, which comes from a very coherent format from the 70s, translated into very delicate colors, some yellows and reds and terracottas and beiges, creating a color chart which can inspire us to think about what I would say is a new look for this trend of the 70s. It's a new blot in a certain way. And also the wovens, because the manual effort continues more and more valued. And even though this weave might be done industrially, it still transmits this idea of manual work. So you can see that there are various different types of textures. And these are translating this idea of the weave. Our color chart for the 60% has very interesting details that I wanted to share with you. We always present a color chart that's classical. And here I want to emphasize this new shade of noon. It's a very light beige, which was used by Fendi in the winter of 2021. At the same time, they brought what I call khaki, but it's really a burnt beige. It's very interesting. And sometimes people call it Fendi because it's one of the basic colors of the products that Fendi brings, which was also presented in the winter of 2021. Our other option is ganache, which is a very dark brown, and a chocolate, like a chocolate ganache, which was also part of Fendi's color chart. And we selected an even more incredible color chart for these classic tones that are so important, such as this green shade. It looks like a military incidence, but it has a great brown tonality, creating this sort of honey color, which is so important. And here in gray, it's also emphasized in the spring. Fendi was bringing this gray, which was incredibly important in the composition of the classical color charts, and also white, which has a slight shade on it, and also red, which is extremely important in the 60% color chart because it's an extremely commercial color, but here in a slightly more orange tone. So we'll see in a certain manner these 11 colors, which we make up as part of the entire 60% color chart. And here we have an interesting variation along with silver, and also the color chart, which really inspired us in the runways of the last two Fendi seasons to use as a reference of classicism and luxury. Here, as we presented into 3 days, this is the color chart for the innovation, future-proof, the antidote revisited through the seasons, the color chart of the 60%, which we are the hits of fashion and of the season, and the classic colors, combining 30 colors in the Inspiramais program. I'd like to invite you once again to download the studies using the QR code here on your screen, and also to visit the exhibitors to see and learn about the materials of the 60% that are in the windows. And you can show me what you found, what you liked, what was lacking, so that we can improve even further. And next, I'll show you some of the materials we created based on the inspirations of free spirit here at the 60%. I also wanted to make you an invitation. Tomorrow, we'll present the new research of the Inspiramais program 2023-1. Tomorrow at 10, here at this same place. Greetings, and until then. We're here at the materials of the 60%, created through the inspiration of what I just showed you. All that image research that the nucleus does. Look at what we can discover, especially at this table, where we talked a lot about modern classicism, and the colors, where we have this combination of caramels and reds, and the luxury aspects of the materials, which are extremely important. The waxy shine, or even more accentuated shine, such as this python. The idea of comfort through fur, and we'll reach the plaids with several possibilities of mixing more classic plaids or more classic textures emphasized here in modern classicism. Remember when we used to talk about timeless models, models that remain a lot longer in the collection? Then we come to the New Romantics, which is exactly an expression which is very delicate of materials where we can see the combination of metallized, small flowers, embroidery, which remind us of Victorian aspects, and artsy, another important element. Remember when I talked about the importance of the circumference in the prints and in the costume jewelry or adornments? They are well presented here. It's really cool for us to understand these small circumferences is the use of a material that already exists. We'll see the use of leftover materials for these effects. So if you have a collection of products and you're thinking about your next collection, it's great for you to reuse materials that you already have. And here, finalizing our presentation of the materials, we have prints which we consider classical, from the leopard, tiger, and zebra, and all these aspects of animals that will be in the ready-to-wear uppers as well as the ribbons. This is a summary of all the inspirations and the materials that were created by the members that participate in Inspiramais for you. So see you next time, and at our next meeting we'll talk about the new research even further.